right, good evening, everyone. If you're here tonight for the first time, or the first time in a long time, I just want to add my welcome to Robert. We're really thankful that you came tonight to be a part of our service, to be a part of our family. You know, TIF is a family where we care for each other, we encourage each other, we love each other, and we share burdens together. And we also share joys together. So, tonight, we're going to continue our series in the book of James. This is week number 8, and we have 3 more weeks to go after this. Tonight is particularly, been particularly hard for me, I guess I should say. Maybe we'll see what it does to you, okay? All right, so we're in James chapter 4, verses 11 through 17. Let me start by telling you, I think I've shared with many of you before, but one of my favorite television programs is the American reality show called Survivor. I don't know if you're familiar with that show or not, but there's versions of it around the world. You know, there's Australian Survivor and Filipino Survivor, and I was reminded by one of our Taiwanese brothers this morning that there's a Taiwanese version of Survivor. It's called TSMC. If you're Taiwanese, you got that. Okay. All right. So anyway, this season of the American version of Survivor is the 50th season. It's been going on for 25 years. And so I've watched every episode from the very beginning, from the first year it was done. And that ought to tell you a little bit about how old I am. So I really enjoy the show. I like watching it. I learn about people and learn about myself, and it's kind of interesting. And so this season, there is a particular young man on the show. It's a comeback season, so they brought back all of the kind of famous players to play the show. So one of the people they brought back actually played in season 49. He didn't even go home after season 49 because they filmed season 50 just 2 weeks afterwards. So he just stayed there and joined season 50. And his name is Rizzo, R-I-Z-O. Rizzo is a young man. He's 20-ish or something. He's from New York City, and he is a famous Instagrammer, social media guy or whatever. Rizzo's a little bit proud of himself. He's a small guy, but he's a big man. Okay, he knows what's going on, or he thinks he does. And so what they do on this show is, they've got the public parts of the show where everybody's all together and they're filming everything, and then they take the characters aside for these little one-offs, and so they'll film them talking to the camera and telling their own personal opinion. Well, when Rizzo gets by himself and the camera, this is how he talks about himself. He says, well, I've got all these plans, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, because I'm the R-I-Z-G-O-D, the Riz God. That's how he refers to himself, as the Riz God, okay? But when he's in public, when he's with everybody else, if I were with Robert and Cornelius here, I would just, hey, it's really good. I love you guys and everything. I'm about to cut your throat, but anyway, it's that kind of a show, right? So I just really think it's funny that he uses this little self-appointed title to give himself that he is, and that's actually his Instagram title too, interestingly enough. As I was thinking about this particular message, I realized we're actually all a little bit like the Riz God. When we're with each other, when we're, in public with other Christians, we talk nice. We use the right words. Well, if the Lord wants me to, I'm just praying about this. I feel like God is speaking to me, But on the inside, we're really just doing whatever we want. And then we sprinkle a little Christian words on top to bless it. We just kind of, I don't know, it's like a baptism maybe, you just sprinkle some water on it, sprinkle the spiritual words, and then we make it feel more spiritual. James tonight is going to address 2 of the primary ways that we play God. We play God. We play God with our mouth, how we judge other people, and we play God with our calendar. We play God with our life. We run it. We run our life. Okay, and he's going to talk about that. So let's talk about just briefly about each one of those before we jump in. I want to set it up. You know, we play God well, no, let's read the passage first. Let's do that. James 4:11 through 17. So James says this in verse 11. He says, don't criticize one another. In some translations, it might say don't judge. All right, don't judge one another. Don't criticize one another, brothers and sisters. Really important. Who's he talking to? Us. He's talking to the church. Don't criticize one another, brothers and sisters. Anyone who defames or judges a fellow believer defames and judges the law. If you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge. There is one lawgiver and judge who is able to save and to destroy. But who are you to judge your neighbor? That word's really important, the word neighbor, okay? Verse 13, he says, come now. You know, he's shifting now into the next idea. Come now, you who say today or tomorrow, we will travel to such and such a city and spend a year there and do business and make a profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring, what your life will be. For you are like a vapor that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you should say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. But as it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. So it is sin to know the good and yet not do it. This is God's holy word. All right, so how are we, let's talk about the first idea. How are we playing God with our mouths? I would say this maybe. Most of us are in court and we don't even know it. We're holding a trial, right? Let me give you how it sounds maybe in your head or coming out of your mouth. Robert, I'm just saying.
Did you see my socks?
I'm not judging your socks. Try not to interrupt me when I'm talking, okay? All right, no, I'm just playing. Yeah, we say things like, hey, I don't know about you, but where I'm from, we do things a little differently, You ever say something like that? You're judging, all right? And again, it's the heart, right? James is looking for the heart. Maybe you've said something like this. Now, I'm not trying to be negative, but I'm not sure they know what they're doing. Something like that, okay? We call these things, these phrases that we use, critical phrases. We'll say, oh, I'm just being discerning, or just, trying to ask the right questions. But actually, sometimes it's just judgment dressed up with nice language. Maybe it's more like this. Maybe some of you might say things like this. Oh, did you hear about so-and-so? Why are you sharing that information? Do you have a right to share it? Or is there a reason behind that? I just thought you should know. Ever say something like that? James is actually not only talking about what we do with our mouths. He's actually getting underneath it to our hearts. He wants to look at what we say in our hearts. And really what he's addressing here is when we use someone else's difference, someone else's problem, someone else's struggle, fill in the blank, to put them down and to lift ourselves up. Okay? We use words, whether it's internal or external, to highlight someone else's weakness so that we appear stronger, better, wiser, more significant, more righteous. All right, so that's the first idea. The second idea is this, about our schedule, our calendar, okay? Some of us, we have our futures mapped out, okay? Many of us live here abroad, right? And so you kind of have to. You have to think about your calendar and your schedule and, visas and contracts. And you've got aging parents who live across the ocean. And If you live here, and if you are not from here, you still have to think about like education for your children and your career. And maybe if you're single, you're thinking about being married. And if you're married, you're thinking about being married. And if you're, family expectations and financial stability. And we plan because planning is wise, all right? There's nothing wrong with planning. Planning is wise. But sometimes we plan as a way to manage a fear. What's the fear? That God's not going to really do a good job. So I need to just do some things to make sure everything is done the way I want it done, right? Yes, I love God, I trust Him, yes, praise the Lord, but I just am going to take over this part of my life just in case He messes it up, right? We're trying to play God. We're trying to play God. So James starts out like this. He says, don't criticize. Don't judge one another, brothers and sisters. And the meaning is really simple. Okay, I've already explained it a little bit. But it's speaking or thinking in a way that's meant to lower or defame or damage someone's reputation. That's what judgment is, okay? Whether we say it out loud or just in our minds, it's an attempt to lift ourselves up and to push someone else down. It can be obvious, like gossip or slander or accusation or mocking somebody else, but a lot of the time, actually, it's much more subtle than that, right? It's that concerned comment that actually reshapes how some people view other people or another person. It's that careful question that plants a little bit of suspicion. You're not making a direct accusation, but you're saying just enough so that people begin to go, oh, well, maybe there is something wrong, right? Or maybe we shouldn't be doing that. Or it's a private conversation where we say what I already told you. I just think people should know about this, right? Well, who are you to decide that? Who appointed you or me judge, right? It's that complaint you have against somebody else that actually never goes to them, it just goes to everybody around them. James is saying, don't do this. Don't do this, brothers and sisters. We're in a family. We're in a family. We don't treat each other this way. This is not right. Not just because it's unkind, okay? There's actually a much more serious reason. All right, what's the more serious reason? James tells us, he says, anyone who defames or judges another believer, a brother or sister, judges the law. Judges the law. What does he mean there? How does speaking against someone, judging someone, become speaking against the law? All right, well, the law, James has already brought it up. He talked about the royal law in chapter 2, right? What's the royal law? Love your neighbor as yourself, right? If you grew up, whether you're a Christian or not, you probably have heard something like that, right? Do you know where that comes from? Does anybody know where in the Bible that command comes from? Somebody? Not Deuteronomy. Leviticus. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Leviticus. Love your neighbor. What? Well, yeah. Let me read it for you. Leviticus chapter 19, actually God is giving his people, the Hebrews, a set of rules, laws, guidance for how we live with each other. Now, I want you to listen to them because at the end of the passage, he says, love your neighbor as yourself. So listen to what loving your neighbor involves. These are the things that it involves. I've curated the list a little bit so we don't read all of it. So here's what he says. He says, do not act deceptively or lie to one another. He says, do not curse the deaf or put a stumbling block in front of the blind. I mean, just think about that idea. Maybe you know a deaf person or a blind person. You know what it would be like to stick something in front of them intentionally to hurt them? So he's talking about doing something physically to someone here, but listen, we do this socially. We do it psychologically. We do it mentally to people all the time. People don't even know we're talking about them, and we talk about them. That's exactly what you're doing. He says, you are to fear your God. I am the Lord. Do not go about spreading slander among your people. Don't jeopardize your neighbor's life. I am the Lord. And again, back here in Leviticus, probably he was talking about physical life. But listen, couldn't he also be talking about your social life? Your life in the community? Don't jeopardize someone's standing, someone's relationships by your words in any way. Don't harbor hatred against your brother. Rebuke your neighbor directly, and you will not incur guilt because of him. Speak to one. This is the New Testament command. Speak the truth in love. There it is, right there in the Old Testament. Don't take revenge or bear a grudge against members of your community, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. When you judge or speak against your neighbor, do you know what you're saying? The reason James brings this up is here's what he's telling us. He's saying, you're saying, or I'm saying, I know that God says I'm supposed to love Cornelius, but I get an exception. I don't actually have to do that. I'm going to take God's place on the seat of judgment where only he belongs and render a verdict. That's what James is saying that we're doing. Anytime you do that, there's no exceptions. James says we don't get to do that because we don't get to climb up on the place, the bench, the position that God holds that we don't hold. Why is there one lawgiver and one judge who is able to save and to destroy, James says? Because there's only one person who sees everything. You don't know everything. You don't know another person's motives. You don't know what's going on in another person's life fully. You don't know what's behind what's happening. So you can't render a true and just verdict. Only God can. Only God can. So James says, don't judge. Be a neighbor. Be a neighbor. Why are we so quick to judge? Sin, of course. I mean, that's the bottom, underneath the reason. That's the bottom. But sin actually does something to us. Sin robs us of our identity. It robs us of our standing in Christ, okay, and God before God, and so we got to get it back. All right, so the reason we judge somebody else, just like all the weeks before where I've taught you about stolen righteousness, this is an issue of stolen righteousness. When I can assign a bad motive to you and a good one to me, I get something. When I can tell a story where you're the problem and I'm the solution, I get something. You know what I get? A righteousness, a sense of righteousness, right? Unfortunately, it's fake. It's a fake sense of righteousness because it's delivered in a kangaroo court. I don't know if you know what that term means. It's a Western term in particular, but maybe it's an Australian term. Cornelius, is it Australian? Do you have kangaroo courts in Australia? Okay, yeah, I thought so, because there's kangaroos down there. We don't have kangaroos in America, except in the zoo. But yeah, kangaroo court, sorry for the little side here, it's a joke. It's a joke. So when you decide to give yourself, when you're the judge, and you decide, you're the judge and the defendant, or the whatever, that person, you're asking the judge to give you a sense of righteousness, that's a joke. You can't do it. It's not real. It might make you feel better for a little brief period of time, but it actually doesn't really give you what you need. We need a real righteousness. A real righteousness. We'll talk about that in just a second. When we do this, when we judge each other, we turn the people that God intended to be our neighbor into a defendant, into an enemy. We're against them. We're not for them. All right? So we play God with our words. Now, let's talk about with our lives. Let's talk about how we play God with our lives, okay? James says, "Come now, you who say today or tomorrow, we'll travel to such and such a city, spend a year there, do business and make a profit." This is someone making plans, and we need to make plans. James is not condemning planning because Proverbs actually commends planning. Jesus tells people to count the cost. That's planning. Paul makes travel plans in his letters. The problem is not having a plan. The problem is having a plan with no God. Listen to what James says this person is saying. Maybe this is you or me, right? We say, today or tomorrow. Time. Such and such a city. Place. Spend a year there. Duration. Do business and make a profit. Result. Time, place, duration, result. 4 domains which actually don't belong to us. Those are God's domains. And we try to steal it. We try to steal control from him. It's not that you can't say, okay, let's be real, okay? It's not that I do not expect us to go around and say, well, I have no idea what's happening in my life. I'm just waiting on God to reveal it to me, you know. No, that's not what we're talking about here, okay? That's not the idea. It's okay to say, I'm planning to do this, I'm planning to go here, I'm planning to go there. James is going for our hearts. He's going for our hearts. You see, oftentimes what happens is, like I said earlier, we may believe, we may even say all the right things about God. We confess even that God is sovereign over all things. We sing songs about his sovereignty, about trusting him. But when it comes to actually managing our life or the things in our lives, God is a secondary concern. We invite him to the table after we've already done the work. We don't consider him first. We consider him it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like the temple, right? You go buy the little red packet, right? You're going to put on your scooter or your car, and you go to the incense burner and you wave it around. So we make our plans, and then we have a little prayer. God, would you please bless all the things I'm going to do for you? And God's like, I didn't ask you to do any of those things. So no, I won't bless them. I don't know. That was my addition. I don't know if he will or not. But the problem is you don't know. James says you don't know what is coming. We don't have that knowledge, right? How many of you knew the earthquake was coming this morning? You got a 10-second warning, right, from the presidential alert, all right? Did that make you feel good? No. I mean, just, you couldn't do a thing. That alert didn't give you any power whatsoever. You just had to sit wherever you were and pray it wasn't the big one, right? James says, you don't know what tomorrow will bring, what your life will be. We think because we have so many little micro ways to keep information, that has given us some kind of power over the future. And James says, you are like a vapor. Do you know what a vapor is? If you're in Taiwan, if you lived in Taiwan any time at all, you know what a vapor is. Have you had a hot pot? Okay. Vapor is the steam that comes off of the hot pot, right? Vapor is the steam that comes off of your cup of coffee. Vapor is the wispy cloud on Alishan that melts away as soon as the sun rises. James is telling us something really important. You're not as solid as you think you are. You don't have as strong a hold on things as you think you do. Now, he's not saying you're worthless. Okay, don't read into that. Vapor is not worthless. Actually, you can't have vapor without something solid. He says, you're like a vapor. We're like a vapor because we exist because God exists. Okay? So let's get our mind, let's get our ideas in the right order. Okay? You're not in control as much as you think you are. So, James says this. Instead, this is the heart change. He says, you should say this: if the Lord wills, we will live, we'll do this, we'll do that. So, now, that sounds like a little mantra, right? Like something you say. And I have known people who every sentence, well, I'm planning to go here next week if the Lord wills. I'm going to have turkey tonight for dinner if the Lord wills, right? I'm like, what? No, you can have turkey. It's in your refrigerator. It's not a problem. Okay? Yeah, no. That's actually not what James is talking about. That's the sprinkling of the, spiritual salt on whatever you want to do. No. What James is saying is, this is a prayer. This is a prayer. This is not a mantra. This is your heart being rewired to begin, not end, to begin by saying, Lord, what is your will? What is your will? Can we do that? It's not a magic phrase. It's not a verbal decoration. It is a way of life. It's a way of living in Christ. He says, but as it is, and this is the opposite, you boast in your arrogance to make plans. And what he's saying is, it's not boasting to say, well, I'm planning to go to Costco next week. It's boasting to make plans with no God. It's boasting to make plans with no thought to what God has intended for your life. Robert actually said it quite well when he was giving his testimony about deep discipleship. A lot of people say, whoa, you have there's a wonderful plan for your life. No. God has a plan for your life. That's the plan for your life. There's no other plan for your life other than the one that God has created. Everything else that might happen is not good. It's chaos and badness and sin. The only plan that has been written for your life was written by the creator of the universe, because he made you. And he made a good plan for your life to bring you to the place, the promised land one day, with his people. Right? Robert, great testimony tonight. Thank you. So he then finishes the passage with this statement. So it is sin to know the good and not do it, right? We've all kind of heard that kind of statement before. If you know what's right to do and you don't do it, that's wrong. Something like that, right? That's basically what James is saying. That verse has a context, right? The context is this. James has already told us, you know the law, love your neighbor as yourself. What's the right thing to do? Love your neighbor. Don't judge. Live in light of what God has asked you to do. Live in his will, not your will. But if we stop right there, actually, it's a real problem. Because if I just leave you with that, some of you are going to walk out of here and you're going to be like, okay, well, I better stop judging people or stop trying to control the future and try to do everything good that I know to do. And one of two things is going to happen to you by Tuesday. One thing is you're going to do a few things right. And you're going to get prideful. And you're going to think, oh, I got this. I am a great person. Or you're going to be crushed. Because by Tuesday, the wheels are going to come off. And you're going to fail. So we need some help. What are we going to do? Well, James says in the passage, there is one lawgiver and judge who is able to save and destroy. That sentence is amazingly wonderful and terrifyingly terrible because the one judge is who? Jesus. It's Jesus. Jesus is the judge, by the way. In John chapter 5, Jesus is talking to some people and he says this. He tells us what authority he's been given. Listen, he says, "Truly I tell you, the Son is not able to do anything on his own, but only what he sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does, the Son likewise does these things. For the Father loves the Son and shows him everything he's doing, and he will show him greater works than these, so that you will be amazed. And just as the Father raises the dead and gives them life, so the Son also gives life to whom he wants. The Father, in fact," listen to this is really important. "The Father, in fact, judges no one, but has given all judgment to the Son, so that all people may honor the Son just as they honor the Father. Anyone who does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him." Listen, friends, Jesus is the judge. What's your relationship with Jesus right now? Are you honoring him? It could feel a little scary, a little overwhelming, but actually I need to tell you something. The judge, rather than judge you, got judged. Jesus got judged. He allowed himself to be placed in a kangaroo court, accused maliciously by people who lied about him. He didn't say anything. He took the judgment that you and I deserve. Now, don't make a mistake here. Don't just think about that or look at that or hear that and think, "Oh, well, Jesus, what a great person. I should try to be more like that." That's not the gospel. The gospel is that Jesus Christ was judged in your place, which means that, okay, remember what I said about why we judge other people? We're trying to grab a little bit of righteousness for ourselves. Jesus was judged for you so that you could receive real righteousness, pure righteousness, genuine righteousness, the kind of righteousness that's like 100% pure gold, uncorrupted, incorruptible. And because it's been given to you, you know, when you take something from somebody, they can take it back. But when somebody gives you something, it's yours. And Jesus, that's what he's offering you, his righteousness. So that means when you receive that, when you get that, when your heart is moved by the gift of love that he has given you, then it doesn't mean you wake up tomorrow morning and go, "Well, I should quit judging, Sally, or quit judging Melvin, or quit judging, whoever." Actually, you're still trying to work. What you've done is say, oh, well, God did something for me, I should do something for God. No, that's not the gospel either. The gospel is you get changed. You get transformed by what God has done for you, and then you become a new person with new life, new power, new righteousness. So you don't have to judge anymore. Then Melvin is my neighbor. I just get to love him. I do love you, Melvin. Transformed. Same thing with your calendar, right? I mean, we try to control all these things, and Jesus, fully knowing the cross was coming, submitted himself. Just like James taught us in chapter 1, suffering and pain may come into our lives. God may allow it to come into our lives. He may send it into our lives at times. And because Jesus willingly laid himself into God's hands for the purposes that God had planned from the foundation of the world, that means you and I, by knowing that, can actually relax and trust God. We can loosen our grip on trying to control all the little minutia of our life, which actually we have no control of at all either, and let God be God. He's perfectly capable, my friends. Yes? If you're here tonight and you are not a Christian yet, I like to say it that way, I want to invite you that you could tonight actually be a Christian. You could receive this righteousness that I've been talking about. The Bible says to put your faith in Jesus Christ, to believe in his life, his death, and his resurrection. And I would love to speak with you more about that after the service, or there's a lot of people here who also could do the same thing.